was a dark and stormy night when Pablo found out he had a new roommate. But this wasn't just any roommate. It was Paidal. And Paidal was a ghost. Pablo, a college student who just moved into an old creepy apartment building to save money, wasn't expecting much. The place had a run-down look, the kind where every floorboard creaked and the windows rattled with every gust of wind. But the rent was cheap. And that was all Pablo cared about. Or so he thought. His first night, Pablo heard strange noises. Not the usual old apartment noises, but something weirder. A distant sound of scratching. And what could only be described as soft and whispering. Pablo laughed it off, thinking it was the neighbors or maybe a rat infestation. That is, until a floating sandwich appeared in the kitchen the next morning. Okay, that's new, Pablo muttered, rubbing his eyes. He looked again, but the sandwich was still there, floating mid-air. Slowly it floated toward the couch and took a bite out of itself. This is fine, Pablo said to himself, trying to convince his rapidly panicking mind. I've seen worse in the cafeteria. Later that evening, Pablo discovered the truth. Paidal, the ghost, finally decided to introduce himself. Paidal had been haunting the apartment for decades, but unlike your typical terrifying poltergeist, Paidal was more of a lazy couch potato. So, you're a ghost? Pablo asked, trying to act nonchalant. What do you do exactly? Haunt people? Scare them to death? Paidal shook his translucent head, sitting comfortably on the couch, legs kicked up.
Nah, man, I'm retired. Too much effort.
Pablo stared, confused. Retired? Ghosts can retire?
Well, yeah. After a few hundred years of jump scares and creepy whispers, it gets kinda old. Now I just hang out, watch TV, maybe spook a delivery guy every now and then. Keeps things interesting.
Things seemed to settle into a routine after that. Paidal wasn't so bad. He didn't make much noise, aside from his ghostly snoring, which was surprisingly loud for someone without lungs. He didn't eat much either, except for the occasional invisible sandwiches that Pablo could never quite understand. But then came the bathroom situation. Pablo discovered, to his horror and slight amusement, that Paidal loved bubble baths. Every evening, like clockwork, Paidal would float into the bathroom, fill the tub with bubbles, and sit there humming spooky tunes. I'm going to need to set some ghost boundaries, Pablo sighed as he stood outside the bathroom door one night, hearing Paidal sing off-key to the theme song of the Twilight Zone. The real problem came when Pablo's girlfriend, Lily, visited. Pablo had been careful to hide Paidal's existence from her. After all, "Oh hey, my roommate's a ghost," wasn't exactly a great conversation starter.
One evening, as Lily and Pablo were watching a movie, Paidal decided to make his grand appearance.
He floated casually through the wall, popcorn in hand. Lily screamed and threw her soda at Paidal, who, being a ghost, wasn't affected in the slightest.
"Oh, sorry. Didn't know you had company," Paidal said, sheepishly backing through the wall again, leaving Lily frozen in shock. After Lily calmed down and Pablo explained the unconventional living arrangement, Lily found Paidal oddly charming.
Over time, the three of them formed an unusual bond. Paidal, the friendly ghost, would occasionally help with chores, floating dishes to the sink or haunting Pablo's alarm clock when he overslept. Of course, Paidal still had his quirks, like the time he tried to order pizza by possessing Pablo's phone and ended up sending gibberish texts to the delivery guy. Or when he borrowed Lily's makeup for a ghostly costume party. Apparently, even ghosts have social lives. As time went on, Pablo couldn't imagine life without Paidal. Sure, he was technically haunting the apartment, but in the most entertaining and least terrifying way possible. Paidal was the best and only ghost roommate Pablo ever had, and honestly, he wouldn't have it any other way.